Faber. It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome in to Judd's Hockey Show, late night edition, because we are back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Judd, it is Declan. Declan at his home base. I'm at the Xcel Energy Center, where the Wild just beat the Florida Panthers 2-0 in their season opener. Plenty to get to, Dex, from this one. A lot of interesting elements, actually, for a low-scoring game. But let's start with the star of the game, Filip Gustavsson. It's funny, a year ago, the Wild got off to a poor start. I think they were 0-2 when they put the Gus bus between the pipes against Colorado because Marc-Andre Fleury was not playing well in the first two games. And Gustavsson looked, in that game in particular, pretty overwhelmed. What a difference a year makes. I mean, what we saw tonight, the Wild outshot 41-21, outshot 13-6 in the first period, 13-10 in the second, and 15-5 in the third. And Gustavsson pretty much single-handedly shuts out the Panthers. A very impressive performance by a guy who looks like he has every intention of being this team's unquestioned number one goaltender, Dex.
Yep, he's damn good, man. Our friend Jesse Pierce, what'd she tell us? Said they're most confident about the goaltending.
Yeah, she told me that again, writing down here. Oh, Jesse. Yeah, she said, yeah, Jesse. I was standing by Jesse going downstairs here in the elevator, and you'll be shocked to know she reminded me again that the goaltending is the strength of this team.
It is. Look, Gus was fantastic tonight. Florida's really damn good. Everyone knows they made their miraculous cup run last year, and a lot of offense, a lot of firepower. That's a really damn good team. And for Gus to really stand tall for the most part, pretty dang impressive, man. Stood on his head, carried the team throughout the course of this game, and it was a really good win and a good performance from him.
He made just about every type of save too, like point blank saves, deflection saves. Like there was nothing that he didn't do. That a couple of those saves late in the game were absolutely spectacular. But you know what? So the first period, the Wild looked pretty dead. I mean, that was not a very good period for them. They didn't look, set to play yet, and I understand it's opening night, so that's neither here nor there. But there were a lot of things that I liked about this game. Gustavsson obviously is 1A, 1B, and 1C probably. But let's go to the first goal of the game, Brock Faber's goal. Brock Faber. And I think we have been in a lockstep, Declan, about saying that this guy looks really good, and he and Brodin are going to be great together. They are both magnificent skaters. I think that they have already shot to probably the top of the pure skating defenseman pairings. I mean, it's that good. But and I don't claim to watch every Gopher hockey game. I think we both watch them occasionally. But that wrist shot, which is sort of a lost art, that wrist shot that he took to score that first goal to beat Bob was an absolute thing of beauty and got through unimpeded. And that's sort of the start of it because Brock can bring that. But I also saw instances tonight where Brodin felt comfortable. In fact, I think it was in the second period. There was one sequence where Brodin and Faber sort of flip-flop places, and you could tell Brodin felt comfortable enough to pinch in and try and create offense. I don't know if he would have done that with Dumba, but my God, this is probably hyperbole right now, but watching those two on the ice together and what they both bring, and they do have a similar skill set, but when you can skate that well, it's such an advantage. Dare I say it? I think there's reason to be very, very optimistic about that pairing, and that goal in particular to me was an absolute beauty because it wasn't a big howitzer slap shot. It was a wrist shot that made its way through everything and scored.
Yeah, it was. And by the way, I'm battling a little bit of connection, mic issues right now, trying to figure out that stuff. So I see your comments. If I sound too quiet, let me know. I'm trying to fix it on the fly.
Just turn yourself up.
I'll turn myself up. I'll just talk a lot louder. That's no problem for me to do either. Look, I thought Faber was fantastic today. He obviously scores the first goal, and we tried to preview what to expect from him just because he's filling big shoes. He looked good in his early audition with the Wild last year. It's a hard jump going from college hockey all the way up to the NHL. But he just looks like a kid that fits right in. And I know you tweeted, and I don't think you were really using that much hyperbole, that defensive pairing could be one of the best in the NHL. not just because it has, just a lot of natural skill and it moves the puck a lot. Well, it looks really dang good. And can Faber also, not just because I think Faber has the skating down and has a lot of tendencies down, even as a pretty young kid, he has just that natural ability that Brodin had when he entered the league. But when Faber is in the offensive zone, can he be someone that can also drive possession and have an offensive game that Matt's kind of went downhill towards the end of his tenure here? And I think with Brock Faber kind of stepping in here and being a more upside offensive player, already being a really dang good defensive player, I thought that part was really encouraging to see. So if Brock Faber is that guy, then that's only good news for the Wild.
Late in the game, too, and this I love because he's a young guy, and you might not expect this, but he seems extremely comfortable. Like it's one thing to look like you belong, Declan. It's another thing to play like you belong. When you had the interference on Marcus Johansson, he was shaken up and actually left. And so I don't know if he's going to be out now or what exactly transpired there. And it wasn't the worst hit of all time. It was definitely, should have been called. One of the first people to the rescue to confront the player from the Panthers was Brock Faber. And that is another. Hi, Pat Micheletti. And that is another thing that, when you see that from a youngster, that's damn impressive. Because there's a lot of young guys, defensemen or forwards, that would allow the veterans, right? Or they might pass up the opportunity. I love the fact that everything this kid does, and really from the first day he stepped on the ice here in the playoffs, in which he played every playoff game, which again, for a rookie defenseman, that's difficult. He looks like he knows he belongs here. He looks like he is. He looks like he's played 5 years, and even something as small as confronting a guy who you think cheap-shotted your teammate, to me, is a really, really important step for a guy who tonight was playing in, if I'm not mistaken, his first or second regular season game.
Right.
Because he basically played the playoffs. So I mean, this should be new territory, and it didn't look like it.
And he was someone, too, that has some size, but you brought up the point last year where it always felt like Foligno had to be the guy to be the muscle, and I didn't love that the Bally's broadcast was convinced that was a dive onto Chuck.
Still interference.
Late in the third period. It is interference.
It's still interference. You can't do, yes.
And look, that's kind of Kachuk. Are we surprised he pulled a stunt like that either?
But Foligno either got confused or didn't care. And I will say this about that play. This is the exact type of stuff he cannot do. This is the exact type of crap he pulled in the playoffs, and the officials are looking for it. They were looking for it in that playoff series, and everyone was like, that's a BS call. Well, guess what? You're a marked man. But it was another Panther player who delivered a legal check to Foligno's face and knocked him off balance. He just got the best of Marcus. So that guy then steps off the ice onto the bench. Kachuk comes on, and I don't know if Foligno was confused and thought it was the same guy or just saw a chance to cheap shot Kachuk. You cannot do that, though. That's a stupid penalty, and you can say he dove, but guess what? It's interference. It's away from the puck. Yep. So, it doesn't matter. He could have flung himself into the third row or stood up and barely gone down. But what Foligno is doing, and he's being watched, this is the type of stuff. If you have a clean hit, take the clean hit. Yeah. But just because you got checked and knocked off balance doesn't give you the right. It's one thing Johansson gets hit, right? Cheap-shotted, possibly. Faber comes to his defense. To what you're saying, Foligno has a lot come to guys' defense, and I applaud that. But I bet Bally's is off base there. You can't. This crap has to be cleaned up because you can't afford it in the spring.
No, and that's why that was my point that I was making, that I like that Faber had the intestinal fortitude to step in, right? He could just take a back seat and let the game come to him in a classic hockey cliche, but he said, no, I'm going to not let that type of stuff happen, which I also really appreciated too. Hopefully Johansson's obviously okay. Don't want to suffer a significant injury on day one of the season. But in general, Gus Bus carried this team, And Florida outshot this team throughout the duration of the game. But when you have stellar goaltending and just timely plays, a power play goal too, which obviously helps, you can still win a hockey game here and there. So in general, can't be upset if you win 2-0, your goalie pulls that.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to a forward who impressed me. I predicted he was going to score. He did score, but then it got, unfortunately, overturned by an offsides review. And I think all of us that watched this game tonight can see the marked difference. Marco Rossi looks like a different player. And if you recall, one of the Wild's complaints, Bill Guerin, Everson last year when he got sent down was a feeling that he wasn't aggressive enough, that he didn't really take the body, that he sort of allowed himself to be taken out of games at times, and they wanted him to be far more, what's the word I'm looking for? Assertive. Well, how about the difference now? And you can see he's stronger, but how about the difference, Declan, of how much stronger Marco looks on the puck? And that goal he scored, and I know it got waved off, but through no fault of his, to hang on the puck and to be skating sort of backwards and flick the puck at the net, but also maintain the puck and possession. I thought Marco Rossi showed tonight that he 1,000% belongs. And if that's how he's going to start, I don't know he's going to be on that third line for long.
Yeah, he was noticeably better. Just looked so much more comfortable, which also is something I liked a lot. It's too bad he got his goal waved off. But in general, you can tell that I think there was just a big exhale with his game, right?
Yes.
It's just there's a monkey off his back.
Well
He's
put.
not trying to impress anyone. He's not necessarily waiting to skate on eggshells, waiting to get reprimanded for it. I thought in general he had a strong game. He looks like he belongs a little bit more. It's still a learning curve, but I noticed him on the ice. Noticed him on the ice in a good way tonight, and that's a good thing for him because the Wild can't afford for him to really be like the fourth, third line guy. Like if he wants to get his feet wet here through the first half dozen games and get his skates under him and get his legs under him, that's different. But I thought in general it was a really good showing. He just looked a lot stronger and more confident than he did at any point last season.
That's really well put. Yes, he looks like he looks like he thinks he belongs, which he never looked like before. And I don't think it was ever a question of skill. I do think it was a question of strength. In fact, he got hit a few times tonight, and I think the most encouraging thing was A, he hit back, and B, he didn't move as much. I remember last year he'd get hit. And we both saw this, and he would just go flying. And it's like, oh, my God. He got hit a few times in the same exact way tonight, and he did not move. He is noticeably stronger. Ask me this question, because my answer might not be as inspiring as I think folks think.
All right, so I think it's Relico on our YouTube channel says, Declan, please ask Judd about Calen Addison, please. Thanks, Judd. What was your thoughts on Calen Addison first tonight?
So I didn't notice him a ton. When I did, he was fine. But here's my problem, and I don't mean to rain on the parade because I think we both like him. I mean, he's the top power play guy. Klingberg is now in Toronto, and so I think we all want him because he does have a certain skill set to succeed. That being said, here's my issue: Calen Addison previously, when the GM and coach have not been pleased, it hasn't been something that I think we've identified. Like in their mind, it's defensive shortcomings, right? And it's physical shortcomings at times, no pun intended because of his size. But I think that's the question. And one is, I think it's going to take a bunch of games to decide this. But two is, there have been times where I thought he's doing his job. And Dean is like, well, on the power play he was, but 5-on-5 he's not. So was I discouraged by his play tonight? Absolutely not. Do I think it's going to take a larger sample size this season for the coaching staff? Like if we're going to hear rave reviews or he's changed a lot, I think that's going to take some time. So I guess what I would say is, like, Rossi tonight, I saw he looked stronger, definitely stronger on the puck, looked like he belonged. Faber has looked like he belonged since day one. Calen Addison, I want to hear Dean's assessment over a longer period of time, because I think there have been times where both of us have talked about, oh, he's playing okay, and then Dino come out and drill him.
Does he sit in Toronto on Saturday?
Calen?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, he's running the power play.
Right.
That's the thing about this. They went out and got Klingberg to replace him. I think he plays. And look, there are certain guys. Rossi is one of them. Calen is one of them. They got to play these kids now. Like, they got to find out. And to your point, through the preseason, which I agree with, this is basically, to me, for Calen, this is decision time, period.
Yep, that's it.
Right. So, like, if he's going to get, we're going to scratch him for 5 games, I think that's it. I don't think there's a coming back from that one. And if you do that, it's a big deal, because I guess my question is, who runs your power play at that point? And Spurgeon, who's hurt, keep in mind, Spurgeon has been for the last 2 years now on the second power play. So it's not like Spurgeon ordinarily is the first guy and Calen's replacing him right now. So I don't think he sits on Saturday. And I think if he sits at all, short of being hurt, Dex, it's a big deal, because you can't keep playing this game of, well, we're going to teach him a lesson. It's going to eat popcorn now. I'm just saying it's going to, personally, in my opinion, we're going to have to see him for a while and get that judgment from the coaching staff, because we have both gotten over our skis before and been like, I think he's playing pretty well. And they're like, 5-on-5, he's not, and he's not playing.
What was your opinions on Patty Maroon tonight? I saw some fans were liking the difference he makes. I see some people in our YouTube comments saying he was a difference maker. What do you think of the veteran Pat Maroon?
He's a fourth-line guy who I thought made a big – I think I noticed him the most in the third period, but this was his first game here, at least in the regular season. The first period I thought was a bad period across the board for almost everybody except for Gus Bus, didn't you?
Yes.
I think we saw 2 periods of this team, and they got outshot in each period, and they were substantially outshot in the third again. But Patty Maroon is a fourth-line guy who I think is going to add an edge here. I got some tweets tonight that said this team doesn't look as physical as they have in the past. Obviously, early last season, they went out and got Ryan Reeves, okay?
Yep.
But if you don't think they looked as physical, I'd say give that some time. Because the first period, to me, they just didn't look good. They looked flat. Don't know exactly why, but they looked flat. Second and third, it picked up. I noticed Maroon the most in the third, but I think at the end of the day, you are going to see Foligno and Maroon especially start to throw their weight around. Foligno just has to be smart.
Sure.
As you said.
And they're not going to be ever guys that, or the Wild aren't going to be a team that is like super big bruising. Like that's not really their game. And you lose Ryan Reeves too, so that makes things a little more difficult. But in general, I think the Wild could still be pushed around a degree. It's just, can they not be completely pushed around where they're bullied? And like the Wild could have easily lost this game lopsidedly tonight. They had fantastic goaltending and they had a couple timely goals, but you definitely don't want to see them be pushed around as much as as they could be, considering their size and the fact they don't really have a lot of physicality either.
And the problem with that too is, and this is where it bites them square in the ass in the playoffs, is their defense. Like what you're talking about, I think what people want to see, and I agree with them, but other than probably Jake Middleton on the blue line, you don't have the size. Yep. Like Maroon and Foligno and that group can definitely hit. But I think what people are talking about is like the Golden Knights, right? Golden Knights have some big defensemen. When the Blues won the Cup, same type of thing, right? So I think when people don't see the Wild being physical enough, what they're really seeing is the fact that the defensemen aren't, for the most part, and that's just true. John Merrill doesn't probably play enough to assert himself, and he certainly can't run around trying to hit guys, because that will get him benched. I think the only guy on the blue line that has true size, Jake Middleton is 6'3", 219. Brodin and Faber are marvelous skaters, and they are really, really good players. But, I mean, they're not going to assert themselves physically. They're going to outskill you, outspeed you. So I think when we see this whole thing of, wow, the Wild doesn't look as big, that goes back to the blue line, and that goes back to the problem in the playoffs, because big defensemen in the playoffs are what win you Stanley Cups. The Wild, as we know, does not have that. What did you think? I've got a question for you off of this game too. What did you think of Alex Goligoski tonight?
I didn't notice him as much. I wasn't keen in on him, so I definitely didn't have a super keen eye towards him. I mean, did you notice anything from the press box this game?
He fanned a shot in the first period on a play in which he joined. Joining the play I liked, fanning the shot I didn't. He had a great scoring chance that I think Bob stopped. I was pleasantly surprised. I've been as hard on him as anyone, and I know he's a great guy, and I know he's from here, and I know that we love him. But I mean, he's at an age where I think there is a concern. I thought he played well. Now, here's what I really like, though, and this again goes back to my man crush on Brodin and Faber. They're the top pairing now. So when it's Goose and Middleton, they're the second pairing. So like you're not expecting, it's not, so Goose is stepping in for Spurgeon, but he's not really stepping into that pairing. He's stepping into a pairing that can be restructured now. So that probably helps. But I thought he had a step tonight, and for a guy his age and a guy that was scratched, I mean, consistently throughout last season, I really liked him. I thought he played well. Now, can he keep it up on Saturday in Toronto? I got no clue. I don't know. Once you start to play games, that could be a test, and I don't know when Spurgeon's back. That's a concern as well. But yes, for tonight, I thought he played well, which I think is a great thing to see, because with Spurgeon out, there's obviously not a ton of depth yet behind him when it comes to the depth chart defensively.
Transitioning, what did you think? Because I thought it was mostly just kind of a blah game from that top line with Kirill and Zuccarello, Hartman. What did you think from that line?
Kirill made some great moves. I mean, he didn't do a lot, but I mean, he also made some. He's just unbelievable. I mean, he leaves guys in their jock straps. Yeah. Zuccarello underwhelmed me. I watched him specifically at times. Yeah. Dude, and on the power play, well, and stuff. I got this on Twitter, and I've seen it here, and I just agree with you all. This power play thing, and look, the power play had a goal. I think they were 1 for 4 tonight, and it's a new coach in charge of it now, and I understand that there's been changes, and at times you can definitely see things that are different, but Matt Zuccarello, dude, you got to shoot the puck at times. I mean, I don't know. He underwhelmed me for the entire game, but if he's going to be on the power play, and I know you want to set up your buddy, that's great, that's awesome, but you got to shoot the puck. I guess if I was to list disappointments tonight, I mean, it's one game, so keep that in mind. But I guess if I was to list disappointments, Zuccarello needs to give you more on that line consistently, and I didn't see it tonight.
Yeah, and I've made numerous comments that I'm not high on Ryan Hartman as 1C, but in general, I just kind of thought the line was not a fart noise, but it was just it was a passive game.
You're right.
Kirill had some moment. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov. I mean, we're just spoiled watching him that we aren't used to like what just a star player can do with the puck, and even with his minor plays, like he's still really noticeable because he's just so damn talented. But in general, yeah, I just thought it could have been better. I thought it was just kind of, they were passengers tonight. I think it's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hartman and Zuccarello, I'm trying to think if like I saw them do something where I said, wow, Hartman always works hard. So that's not a surprise. But that's what makes him an ideal third liner. If you are thinking that I'm thinking that if Marco Rossi, if what we saw tonight is him,
yep, then
yes, I would like to see him with Kirill. I would like if he can combine strength with skill, and I do think he's got skill, and I don't think skill has ever been his problem. I think it's strength.
Oh, no. Yeah, no.
But if he's got the strength now, and it looks like he does, I think it's a no-brainer to flip-flop Hartman and Rossi. and new contract be damned. I don't care about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't love a lot of those re-signs that they did this evening, but this offseason, I should say, especially towards the last week or two leading up to the regular season. But they've made their bed with it now. Like, they can't get out of it. So we'll certainly see, I guess, how the rest of everyone basically plays out here.
I'm trying to find an update on Marcus Johansson.
I saw one. I think they said no update yet. Like, as in Dean said.
Of course not.
Doesn't have.
Of course not.
Doesn't have an update, basically.
Yep. I'm looking to right here. So anyway, but yes, the first line, not much. I mean, Kirill's great to watch, but yeah. The second line, I noticed more. Rossi, I definitely saw. And look, you know what, two decks, if you look at the lines, okay? So the third line tonight was Rossi, Gaudreau on his right, Foligno on his left. That's not the skill. And this is not a shot, okay? Because Foligno and Gaudreau play their roles. They are very important players, kill penalties, so this is no shot at them. But if Marco Rossi, if what we saw tonight is indicative of what we're going to see, this is a pretty easy move. If you want to leave Ek with Boldy and Johansson, which is fine, I'm fine with that, then Rossi at some point in time here goes up to play with Kirill and Zuccarello. Hartman goes down to the third line, and I actually like what the fourth line will bring. I think that Duhaime, Dewar, and Maroon could be a very, very interesting fourth line that can give you a combination of just hard work. And Maroon and Duhaime, I should say, are going to add a physicality, to your point, that's going to help you up front. So I am flipping C1 and C3 to me. If we see this for a couple of weeks, maybe. I mean, I'm just estimating here. I think will be a pretty easy move if the head coach will do it, and that, of course, is another question.
And I think that's what I would take it a lot seriously. And I know I said this team's not a playoff team in our little preseason preview earlier this week, but I need to see someone else between the middle of those guys to take them seriously, and not for it to be Ryan Hartman. So if Rossi continues to develop and makes the proper strides, then
show off.
I like it. Yeah, I did show it. Sorry.
Well, and the question is this, too. If you give Zuccarello and Kaprizov a skilled center, I don't mean a hard worker, because we always go back to, Bill Guerin's feeling that in 2023, you don't need, that playmaking center, because Kirill and Zuccarello can basically help each other make plays. But Dex, if Rossi asserts himself as a skilled player, and then you can tell Mats, dude, start shooting the puck. Because I think in some ways, because of the lack of skill at the center spot there with Hartman, I think Zuccarello takes it to heart that I got to set up Kaprizov. But think about this. If you get it to be Rossi, okay, and now you've got your skilled guy, you got your guy that can see the ice, you got your guy that can set guys up. I think it becomes much easier to sit Zuccarello down and say, dude, we need you to shoot. When you have a shot, don't worry about, unless 97 is wide open, your first thought should be, if you're in scoring position, to try and score. Because I do think Zuccarello takes that whole thing of I'm a pseudo center to heart, and I think at times it hurts him, because what you see is a guy who's trying to do way too much instead of saying, okay, if I have 97 open, I'll pass to him, but I'm not going to force it, because it feels like he forces it a lot. And my guess is it's partially to make up for the fact that Hartman is who he is, which is not really a true playmaking center type. Just a guess.
Yep, and that's where they'll probably do. I mean, knowing Dean, he'll probably give Frederick Gaudreau a reward because he loves him so much. But I'm hoping at the end of the day he actually gives.
Well, you know what you could do?
Rossi.
So, and again, I think this would be a fun third line. Foligno, Gaudreau, and Hartman, and you could actually, if you want, flip them and have, because when Hartman got off to the bad start a year ago, before he got hurt in Chicago, they did this. You could flip, if you want, Gaudreau back to center, because he's on the right wing of Rossi right now, and you could flip him back to center and move Hartman to a wing. Also, and then but I mean, that think about that for a third line. that would be a third line that would work their asses off and would serve a purpose big time.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I just think in general, the fact they were able to get a big win here tonight.
It was fun.
Big performance by Gus Bus. And you wait a long time from the offseason for hockey. There's not a lot going on. It was a good positive win. Good positive win. Good tone-setting win for the Wild over the Panthers. Compared
to a year ago, it is a breath of fresh air to see the Wild, as Jesse Pierce said too, full credit to her. It is a breath of fresh air to see the goaltending get off to such a great start. Because that was, I mean, we were a week in last year. I thought to myself, Gustavsson is a backup and he's a bust, and Fleury is not a young man. So like what we saw tonight is about as big a turn as you can possibly get. And again, that was 41 saves by Gus. And that was not an easy night. Like he made a lot of great saves off deflections and things. So yes, I'm with you. That's a fantastic start. I think it was a fun second and third. Again, the first was pretty lackadaisical. The Panthers were without what, two of their key defensemen, and Sam Bennett was out too. Your guy, who you tried to get from the Flames. But that being said, yeah, and so now the club will travel to Toronto to play the Maple Leafs on Saturday night. Oh, but before I go, I want to show you something, okay?
What do you got?
So they pass these towels out to start.
Towels? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm like, okay, it's towels. It seems weird. Now watch this though, all right? It turns out these towels have this on the back. I'm going to do this, and before the game, this is what a majority of the fans in the building did. All right, let's see if I can do it. Okay, I yanked it out. Now watch this.
Okay.
Now watch this. I've never seen this before.
Oh, wow.
Can you see this?
Look at that. Yeah, I can.
Can you see this? And they were green and red lights. It lights up, and so they turned the lights down, and everybody waved their towels. I've never seen it before. An opening night towel that blinks.
Maybe in the playoffs, maybe a good 6-game series, we can bust those out for a couple games, huh?
Here's a thought. Should we do away with the with the towels?
With the towels?
I'm just saying, as far as the Twins go and the Wild goes. You know what? The Wolves too. I think we should go in a different direction. I think the towels don't work anymore.
What, batteries? We go St. Cloud State? What do you suggest? We throw from our hands then? What do we do?
What can we wave that's not a towel? I just Homer hankies. They don't work. In fact, I got mine.
I know.
I got mine from last night.
I grabbed a few from the press box last night. Spoiler alert.
Oh, you found one in the press box?
I
paid $4 for mine. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So these don't work. The last few years, these don't work. I think we gotta get something else.
I love it.
I think we gotta do something else. All right.
I love it.
I've said enough.
Hit the subscribe button for Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. This is Judd's Hockey Show. Judd's double fist in his towels, if you will. We got a feedback Friday tomorrow on Purple Daily. We got plenty of stuff coming up. Vikings event line. Vikings back in action against Chicago Bears. Twins are done. We're in off-season mode for there. But the Wild have started back up. The Wolves are around the corner, too, so our winter sports are already here. So shout out to the Wild for the Twins for bridging our gap for just a little week before the Stanley Cup and the LOB parades get started. Hit that subscribe button. Pass, shoot, score.